You're listening to UCW Radio. In your face.
What we got here is a failure to communicate.
Oh, have I got your attention now? Relax, better. It's good.
You know what I mean?
Money to be made in a place like this.
Money never sleeps, pal.
You're crazy. Don't run when you lose. Don't whine my head.
You know what it takes to sell real estate?
It takes brass ball.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
All right, welcome to Money Never Sleeps, and this is a special show. Where normally we don't do it, but in this case we found it necessary because our next guest, he has two major events going on in both real estate and in the venture capital world. So I want him to go into things and explain what's going on out there because I think this can be beneficial to a lot of developers and a lot of startups that are actually looking for funding. So without further ado, let me bring on David Drake of LDG Capital to the show. David, how are you?
Louis, thanks for having me on. No, I'm excellent. I'm on the West Coast right now, and we're getting ready for the full week of real estate, family offices, and crowdfunding we're going to have in San Francisco and San Mateo next week.
Okay,
well, glad to have you on board. Glad to be on board here to talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's important because I think in the world of real estate, especially, you have a lot of developers, you have a lot of people that are getting into the game, and even some private equity, and they don't know where to go to help them, get financing for the next project. So what you're doing is actually giving them information and giving them the resources and the people where they can actually get it done. So I think it's important. Yeah. So what I want to do, if you can, for our listeners, is go over what the event entails, how it works. So even for the people that can't make it there, they can get an idea of what it is, because I'm sure that it can be beneficial to them next time around.
Yeah, thanks, Louis. Yeah, so, my background is we're a family office in New York, and we made an investment into a media group called the Soho Loft. And we're doing the first weekly long real estate crowdfunding conference in San Francisco. Now, we picked San Francisco because one of the largest real estate events of the year is with Inman. It's a publication for real estate. They're being done the similar dates from the 16th to the 18th. So we decided to do a full week just on crowdfunding in real estate. And then secondly, on family offices and venture capitalists investing in technologies and real estate platforms. That's a little different from what Inman is doing, and consequently, there's really good synergies. And we know Inman is bringing in 2,000 people, and we're bringing in a couple hundred. So we decided to do our event at San Mateo at Draper University. Tim Draper is hosting it for us, a full-day event on Friday, July 18th. But prior to that, we're doing VIP cocktails with family offices and venture capitalists every single night for the whole week. So we rented 2 penthouses downtown San Francisco, and San Mateo is just 30 minutes outside. But throughout the whole week, from the 15th to the 22nd, we're going to have 15 VCs and family offices attending our cocktails from 7 to 10 p.m. with our own private roof terrace. And you can see the sunset and also have a good time. A little more relaxed environment. Mm-hmm. So for, people listening to this short talk of what's happening in San Francisco and San Mateo next week, they can take away that Time Realty News, one of our publication sponsors, have discounted tickets showing people how they can join one of these events. And we have several family offices confirmed coming. And what's happening, if you want to go into the details of what's really happening in the industry and why crowdfunding is combined with real estate, well, first of all, when people think about crowdfunding, they think about Kickstarter and, you donate a couple dollars for a cause or an event. But in this case, the crowdfunding direction of real estate is that we're still sticking to SEC regulations, and only rich people are allowed to invest in real estate because you have to be credited, which means you have a minimum $1 million in net worth, excluding your home, or you have $200,000 in salary the last 2 years, unless you're married and you have $300,000. And those accredited investors, there's about 8.6 million of them, are allowed to invest and be solicited to put money into real estate. And that's really where we're seeing a complete shift to how real estate has been done historically. And what we'll talk about at the conference on the 18th, and privately as well, is what are the technologies out there making real estate more accessible, allowing investors from all over the globe to log in, to look at investments and actually make investments from the internet? Which are the platforms? TimeRealtyNews.com has a top 20 crowdfunding for real estate platform report outlining the top 20 in the world, what they're doing, and how come they've been able to invest $1.2 billion in real estate through the internet. Okay. So the fascinating thing happening today is that developers are realizing very slowly, but it's happening, that they can raise money in a different way that was never possible before, and that's through the internet. And historically, they had to sit down, and still do, one-on-one with investors, fly to a city, sit down with a big check-cutting investor, FedEx between the lawyers, and catch up a lot of legal fees between lawyers going back and forth. And it's very costly and expensive and just extremely rich. However, because of technology, we're seeing platforms like Groundbreaker and Ground Floor and Realty Mogul and Fundrise, just raised $31 million, allowing people to streamline that process. Mm-hmm. So the legal, the documents, the due diligence, the background checks is all done through the internet. And being compliant with SEC and FINRA, and this is very important, you have to be compliant, you're breaking the law. We're discussing how they're compliant and how other groups can be compliant and how developers now can raise money online from investors they never met before. And we've had case studies where we actually sent people out on the web and said, hey, go and try these 10 leading platforms. There were an article from Forbes. And I also write for the Wall Street Journal. And as of today, I'm also writing for Huffington Post and Entrepreneur.com. But I'm talking about this through all my writings and having invited to the White House for a champion of change and represented the U.S. Commerce Department of these policies for the last 4 years. We're now doing these conferences, and this is the third global one, where we have about 150 people coming, and we're discussing best practices, what are the challenges, success stories, and how people have raised millions of dollars in real estate through the internet, which they before haven't been able to do.
And
so I think it's exciting to know that this
But David, you know what I want to do? I want to interrupt you for a second because I just want to kind of give a little insight, because you mentioned with raising capital and streamlining everything. When you're trying to raise capital, well, way back when, you would have to go and, as you said, send information out, wait for responses, and if you got interest, you'd have to actually get the money to go and visit these people because they're not going to come to you. You'd have to go to them. And there's no guarantee that you would get funding. So what winds up happening, you wind up going through a whole process when there's no guarantee, where if you do stuff digitally, you can actually get more things done. People are coming to you, and you can streamline the whole process, making it cost-effective in your fundraising abilities. So I wanted our listeners to kind of get my view on it, so that it just it's a pretty good format to work with, especially when you have to raise capital for a project, and you giving information to developers is going to allow them to take on more projects, not only in the state that they're in, but they may want to have joint ventures with other developers in other areas. So who knows? I mean, the possibilities are endless.
And Louis, let me give you some data to back that up, what you just said, which I agree with. Look, historically, after the great financial crisis, it took 26 to 28 months for a new fund to raise money. With the internet and the crowdfunding for real estate, I remember only rich people can invest because they're accredited. It takes less than 30 days. And one developer I sent to try different platforms raised over $1 million in 30 days from people they would have never had a chance to meet because they were in different countries and different regions of the U.S. At the same time, in 2012, $22 billion was invested by business angels. That was 265,000 angels invested $22 billion. And that only stands for 4% of all the accredited investors we have in North America. So there's another 8.4 million investors that we can reach through the internet that we can't properly find. And if the market gets more and more efficient, we're going to find more and more of these investors. And just if they give a $10,000 check, it means they might be able to put $100,000 to $250,000 check in the future. And they're just testing you out through the internet. So, we do encourage people that, hey, if you're a real estate developer or you're thinking about buying a real estate of any sort, crowdfunding is the new realm of possibilities of raising money quicker and cheaper than other ways.
Okay, I think that's important.
Note,
I think that's
we're
important
have
stuff.
A Super Angel Week in New York, August 4th.
But we're going to talk about that in the next segment because we're going to take a break in a minute. But I just want to kind of finish out the real estate part of it because that's happening next week. Okay, now can you give us quickly, insight to, let's say, if someone wanted to go to the conference, all right, what would they expect from beginning to end as far as, when they sign up to go, what would they expect their experience to be from beginning to end?
Well, the experience will be that they're going to be at the forefront of what's changing in the industry globally at these conferences. There's nothing else like this today. And the panels will be the top 10 leading crowdfunding for real estate panels in North America and the world. And you'll also have family offices and investors sitting down talking about what they want to see when they're investing in either technology in real estate or just real estate, or the platforms of crowdfunding real estate. So we have Thomson Reuters family office is confirmed speaking, but we also have some interesting speakers from Prosper, which is a lending platform where you can lend non-secure loans up to $35,000, which is something else interesting because a lot of people say, hey, I want to do renovation. How do I get a loan? My bank won't give it to me. Well, Prosper and Lending Club are two of the world's largest debt peer-to-peer lenders, and they can give you non-secure loans up to $35,000. Well, when we work with New Orleans, resurrecting or rebuilding New Orleans, and remember, Katrina still has 150,000 homes destroyed in New Orleans. Those properties are being picked up for $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 by construction teams. So, they just don't know that they can use their good credit and go on Prosper or Lending Club to raise more money, what they want to do. So we'll also talk about other ways for people to raise money across the board. Because I travel around the world every week for the last 3 years, interviewing government agencies, funds, and business angel networks in maybe 20 different countries to find out best practices. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about best practices and what's the least amount of resistance for somebody to raise money in real estate. Hope that will be helpful for your audience.
Yeah, I think so, because I wanted them to understand, what the experience would be and what benefits they would get out of it. And if getting the information they need to actually better their business and grow their business and get the funding that they potentially need for their development projects, then, it's a win-win all around. And I'm sure that, they can get more information when they get there. But actually, I want them to get more information now. So if you can do me a favor before we take the break, why don't you give them the website information on how they can get more information on what you're doing with the Soho Loft and the event in San Francisco next week.
The Soho Loft Media Group is organizing it, and for that, anybody who's listening to this, you should go to timesrealtynews.com. And there you will be able to find details about the event. I think they're sponsors, so they have some discounts. And if you really want to be involved with the big hitters and the big investors, you want to attend the VIP cocktails throughout the whole week at the penthouse we rented in San Francisco. We're going to do sunset cocktails and finger food, 7 to 10 p.m. And that you can find on Times Realty News as well. Oh. So that's where I suggest that people do go to the website. And there's also a newsletter there they can register for free. It's the only publication in the world today tracking crowdfunding for real estate.
Okay.
So that's my recommendation. I hope people enjoy learning more about this.
Oh, I think they
but
will.
Of course, they can also do search online for my articles.
Okay, well, I think that going to timesrealty.com, check it out. If you're interested in real estate investing, if you're a developer, and even if you can't make it to the conference, you just want to get additional information to help you with your endeavors, because everyone needs information. Information is power. All right. On that note, David, stay with us, and listeners, stay with us. We're going to be back right after this quick break.
This is AP News Minute. A woman abandoned a baby in a Manhattan subway station. Police say the woman pushed the baby girl in her stroller out of a train at the Columbus Circle station and then got back in the train and rode off. The baby girl is 6 or 7 months old with no apparent signs of trauma. A powerful typhoon struck the southern Japanese islands of Okinawa as residents took refuge from gale force winds, towering waves, and storm surges. The typhoon comes on the tail end of Japan's summer rainy season, and landslide warnings already are in effect for some areas due to the seasonal downpours. Residents of Iowa are cleaning up from 4 tornadoes that hit the state. One tornado wrecked 2 homes in Rhinebeck, a town in eastern Iowa, ripping parts of the roof off of one. Residents of Gaza woke up to flattened homes after Israel launched what could be a long-term offensive against the Hamas-ruled Gaza Strip. The Israeli army said its offensive, dubbed Operation Protective Edge, struck at least 50 sites in Gaza by air and sea. Matthew Burgoyne, The Associated Press, with AP News Minute.
This is Chef Gavin Murphy with your 1-minute healthy cooking tip. For all my fellow fitness freaks out there, eating lean, high-protein meats like chicken, turkey, or even pork loin is part of our everyday diet. I get asked all the time, how do I make chicken breast juicy and not dry and overcooked? This is how. Season the breast with salt and pepper and sear in a drizzle of olive oil in a hot pan until golden on both sides. Preheat your oven to 400 degrees and place the breasts on a foiled oven tray. Pour 1 cup of chicken broth on the tray and pop it in the oven for 6 to 7 minutes. What's going to happen is the broth will create steam in the oven while the chicken is cooking and add moisture to the meat. And that's my secret. Also, very important, guys, once you take the chicken out of the oven, let it rest for 3 to 4 minutes, and this will also keep all the juices in the breast. For more tips and information on me, go to my site, gavinmurphy.com.
All right, welcome back to the special edition of Money Never Sleeps. We're here with David Drake of LDG Capital, and we were talking about real estate investments with crowdfunding in the previous segment. And now we're going to be talking about angel investing and the VC world. They have a big event coming up in August. So, David, why don't you, tell us a little bit about what's going on in that realm. We touched real estate. Now let's talk about angel investing.
Well, we're doing a Super Angel Week in New York City, August 4th to the 11th. And my company, LDG Capital, is a family office out of New York. And we co-founded an angel network, and we're on board of 3 other angel networks. But one of the angel networks we co-founded is fpangels.com. And we're flying in angels from other angel networks from all over the U.S. So 35 of us are flying in, and we're having a full-day event for that event. That's interesting for people to hear about if they are angels and they want to consider joining. But the following day, on August 7th, we're doing a full-day event for entrepreneurs who will have a chance to pitch 35 family offices and business angels attending that event in New York City. And the way to find out more about these details is go to the website of the soholoft.com. And just don't forget the THE, the soholoft.com. That's where we have upcoming events outlining what's happening that week in New York. And, of course, we're going to end the week with a breakfast with Senator Coons on August 8th, which is a Friday of that week.
Okay.
Of course, there'll be cocktails every night that week at penthouses that we have accessible to us. But we're excited about Senator Coon because he has a tax credit that he's proposing that we want to support as business angel investors and venture capitalists. And that tax credit is in essence saying that you can deduct against your salary investments into startups. And that's something we also see in the UK. Most people don't understand that the UK has a seed enterprise investment scheme. That's called SEIS. And that allows you to deduct your salary with 50% of an investment you make into a startup.
Well, how does that work? Wait, David, how does that work? Let's have clarity on that, because even for me, I just want to get an idea of how that works. I know, look, I'm going to be there in August, and I'll be hearing it as well, but, let our listeners know how that particular thing, that particular situation works, because I find that interesting.
Well, right, so I'll talk about the tax first and then about the event, the main event being August 7th that you should be attending, because entrepreneurs can actually see online who the investors are in the bio. So
Right.
There's not a guessing game, but you can actually be able to research it before you even buy a ticket. And the tickets are only $100, which is inexpensive for New York. But back to your question, how did that work? In the UK, it works the following way. If you invest in a startup, $100, or let's say $10,000, you're allowed to take half of that, $5,000, and deduct your salary with $5,000. So you're paying less taxes.
So if
and
you
that's
get,
why
so,
there's such a momentum in the UK for startups.
Okay.
Because the second thing they're allowing companies to is they're allowing them to have no capital gain taxes if they hold the investment for at least 3 years, and there's a big exit.
Okay, so let me just give an overview. All right, let's say in the UK, if someone, just to give a figure, someone's making $100,000 or 100,000 sterling pound, whatever it is, they're making 100 grand. Now, if they make
Right.
a $20,000 investment, an angel investment, they're able to take 10,000 of that and deduct that from their salary. So basically, instead of them showing 100, they're paying taxes on 90. Is that correct?
That is exactly correct.
Okay,
And then the kicker is, if they qualify for the program and hold the stock for 3 years, if it's the next Facebook, they pay no taxes on it.
So
which is beautiful.
So basically, let's say if someone went in and they invested again the 20,000, they deducted half off their salary, so they got that tax credit. Now they held it for 3 years, and that company again became a multi-billion-dollar company, and they had their original stock. So you're telling me they would pay no capital gains on that upon them selling the stock?
That's correct.
That's
That's
insane.
When you read the news in Europe, you hear about startups in the UK a lot, and this is the reason. These programs have been in place for years, but no other country besides Argentina has anything like it. So,
that's
people
incentive.
should come to this conference
That's
in
incentive.
New York and listen to what Senator Coons is proposing, which is a very similar thing.
Yeah,
and it makes a lot of sense. It's going to be, it'll be jet fuel for the startups industry.
I think
if we can get this passed legislation.
Well, I think that it's incentive. I think that, here in the United States, this is a country built on entrepreneurs. All right. So you have a lot of companies that need funding, and you may have that diamond in the rough that can be the next big thing, but you don't know.
Yeah.
And without the funding, they'll never get there. And that's part of the issue. Without the funding, they'll never see their potential. So angel investors are providing a good first step, because after that, then these companies can actually go to an actual larger private equity or venture capital firm to actually do the next round of funding, or even go with the same group that they started out with. It all depends. Point is that, when you have these angel investors and they're getting incentives to invest in these startup companies, in this growth, it's good for America. Is good for business, is good for employment, is good for a lot of things. So, I think that's good stuff, and I'm looking forward to hearing him speak about that, and hopefully, you'll make some headway on the Hill on that deal.
I think we're going to be running out of time, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. But yes, you can go to the SohoLoft.com to see all the upcoming events with Super Angel Week. And like you said, this is going to be jet fuel for startups if we can pass this legislation. I lobbied Congress. I was invited by the White House to the Champions of Change, and also represented the U.S. Commerce Department in Rome on policies of how to get money to startups at early stage. Mm-hmm. And to give you some numbers, the venture capital industry globally is $68 billion. 30 of that is from the U.S. alone. The the angel network in the U.S. is around 22 to 24 billion. To give you a size of how much activity there is in North America, which is the leading country for business angels. Yet again, in Europe, I'm also a partnership with the European Business Angel Network. And Europeans have 500 million people, and they have doubled their angel investments from 4 to 8 billion the last 3 years. And they want to double again to 17 billion through the European Business Angel Network. So there's a lot of interesting activities across the globe in the space. And we'll be covering that at these conferences and the several events we have that week. So thank you for having me on board, and I appreciate having me here, as always. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on, David. And, for our listeners out there, definitely check out thesoholoft.com. You'll get additional information on the real estate event. And they'll be able to get that information as well for the VC event at the Soho Loft, or what is that other site?
That's correct.
All right,
that's correct.
All right, so
and
both
if people want
events.
to reach me, reach me is easy. Just email David at ldjcapital.com.
Okay, so you can go to LDG Capital, check that out, check out the Soho Loft, and find out more about it. And again, I think that if you are a startup company and you're just looking to be connected with angel investors where, if you exhausted your family and friends network and you needed that something extra as opposed to going at the Shark Tank, you can actually go to the Super Angel Week. And you may connect with someone, and I'm sure that you'll definitely make some connections that may last a lifetime. You don't know what can happen. You have to be in the game to see where things go. But David, again, want to thank you for coming on Money Never Sleeps. A lot of information here, and we're going to have you on the regular show soon as well. And again, we'll bring you on further on additional shows as you make developments with some of the projects that you're working on, because that's actually going to be helping a lot of entrepreneurs to grow. So I appreciate you coming on, and we'll have you on again.
Thank you very much, Louis.
Okay, and to our listeners, thank you again, and I hope that you have an extremely profitable week. And remember to listen to or catch Money Never Sleeps, the weekly shows every Monday. And until then, again, have yourself a profitable week, and we'll be back with you on the next show.
Initiating shutdown sequence.
You're listening to UCW Radio, in your face.
What is your major malfunction?
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Ladies and gentlemen, my mother thanks you, my father thanks you, my sister thanks you, and I thank you.